Hi guys, welcome to my channel. This is stellabeautytarot back at you again with another video. I would like to thank each and every one of you for liking, commenting, subscribing, and donating to my channel. I really do appreciate all the love and all the support. And thank you for those of you who've been booking readings with me. It is truly appreciated, okay? So guys, your girl's Patreon channel is up and running. So if you would like to support your girl, you'll be able to find the link in the description box below. I do post 2 exclusive videos per week, so go check it out if you feel called to. So guys, before we dive in, if you've been loving the energy here, I have created a collection of spiritual ebooks and printable workbooks to help you along your journey. From manifestation rituals to love journal prompts, these tools are designed to help you align, heal, and rise. You could find a link in the description box below or on my Patreon channel under the shop tab. So as you guys can tell by the title of this video is going to be about what are people forced to admit about you. So pile number 1, you're going to be the malachite crystal. Pile number 2, you're going to be the red jasper crystal. And pile number 3, you're going to be lapis lazuli crystal. So again, pile number 1, malachite crystal. Pile number 2, red jasper crystal. And pile number 3, malachite, not malachite, sorry, lapis lazuli crystal. So pause this video if you must and meditate on the card or the crystal that you feel most drawn to. You'll be able to find your timestamps in the description box below, and I'll see you guys at your pile. Hi Pawan! Welcome to my channel. This is stellabeautytarot back at you again with another video. So my Pawan, you picked the malachite crystal, and this is going to be your reading, okay? So if you are a returning subscriber, welcome back. I'm so happy to have you back. And if you are a newbie, welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. So the way that I like to do this is like to smudge the cards first before we get started, so we don't pick up the energy of previous file or previous readings, okay? So my pile number 1. What are people forced to admit about you? What are people forced to admit about you? Ooh, people are forced to admit your value. They're forced to admit it. Like, spirit is not like letting them get off the hook easily when it comes to your worth, when it comes to the value that you bring to the table. So this could be like in a work setting. Maybe like in a work setting, people are downplaying your skill, your achievements, your competency, and it's being seen directly with the Ace of Pentacles. Okay? Like, you're being shown with grace. Ooh, I don't know. Someone is in their feelings. What are people forced to admit about you? What are people forced to admit about you? What are people forced to admit about you? We have the High Priestess. Okay, so you could be a Cancer here. Don't have to be. And people are forced to admit that you're highly spiritual, you're very receptive, you have spiritual gifts, and that you can see right through them. Some of them, they're forced to admit that you saw right through them. You saw like what they were doing, how deceptive they were, and that they can't get away with it. Like, they can't pull the wool over your eyes. They know that you're too bright, you're too smart, you're too spiritually aware. Okay, With the Three of Cups, what I'm getting here, what are people forced to admit about you is that you have a positive vibe. You're extremely influential. You're an anchor. You're a stabilizer. So whenever you are in a room, people underestimate your impact. Okay, the impact that you have on others, the impact that you have on like the fellow people that are around you. Your impact is great, and people are forced to admit that your impact is irreplaceable. Okay, you definitely stabilize the room. So what are people forced to admit about you? What are people forced to admit about you? Wow, Ace of Swords, that you are the truth. You bring clarity, truth, okay? You release illusion, confusion. You're somebody who operates in integrity. What are people forced to admit about you? What are people? Woo! Nine of Pentacles, okay? The eligible bachelor or bachelorette. With the Nine of Pentacles, okay? That's what people are forced to admit about you. With the Nine of Pentacles, a beautiful, stable energy, practical energy, you're self-sufficient, abundant. Okay, people are forced to admit that about you. They're forced to admit that you operate with high standards here. Okay, like your standards are very high. You're somebody who is the blueprint. People are forced to admit that about you. Okay, they're forced to admit that they have been copying you, taking notes from you, that you are their blueprint. Okay, you are the guru, you are the master at your craft. Okay, you're self-sufficient, you're independent, you have this luxurious energy about you with the Nine of Pentacles, and they are forced to admit that about you. What are people forced to admit about you? Ooh, we have the Page of Pentacles, that you bring a lot to the table. But with the Page of Pentacles, you're a lifelong scholar. You're a lifelong student. Okay, you're extremely practical here. You're always learning. You're always perfecting your craft. What are people forced to admit about you? We have the Empress. So Libra and Taurus energy. So your divine feminine, divine masculine energy, okay? People are forced to admit that you are extremely creative, you are very abundant, okay? You bring a lot of positive energy to everything that you do. Somebody is realizing too late that you were like the stabilizer. You were the amplifier with the Empress energy. Like your energy was anchoring and adjusting the state, I don't know why I said the stage, the place. Maybe some of you could be actors or like theater, okay, Broadway show, something like that. Some of you could be actors here, or actors or actresses, okay, with the Empress energy. Because I heard Broadway show, okay, maybe a dancer as well. I'm gonna like burlesque too. Very Venusian energy, okay? So what are people forced to admit about you? What do we have here? Ooh, we have the Knight of Wands. People are forced to admit that you're bold, that you're a force to be reckoned with, okay? With the Knight of Wands, you are extremely courageous and you are extremely passionate, okay? You're definitely a leader, a self-starter, and people are forced to admit that about you. Like, you know how to get things done. You bring a spark. You're a source of inspiration for a lot of people. Like I said, they take notes from you. People are forced to admit that they're taking notes from you, okay? What are people forced to admit about you? We have the Three of Wands, that you're a visionary. You're ahead of your time. You can't be replicated or duplicated. It can't. They can't do that. Whatever you brought to the table, it can't be replicated. This is something that only you have, okay? Only you could bring to the table, okay? What are people forced to admit about you? Just one card, please. What are people forced to admit? What are people forced to admit? Just one card, please. What are people forced to admit about you? Wow, just one, please. Just one. Ooh, we have the Lovers. People are forced to admit that you were the right choice. You were the only choice. The best choice. Somebody mishandled you, fumbled you. They made a mistake, a grave mistake. Somebody has to eat their words, okay? What are people forced to admit about you? Ooh, the Ten of Wands. You definitely represent a challenge. And not in a sense that you are too much or you're overburdened. Like, no, it's more about like somebody may have to admit that they try to like discredit you, discredit your contribution to something with the Ace of Pentacles and the Ace of Swords, like Nine of Pentacles. Like, you were a self-starter, you were an initiator, and you're a sovereign being, so you don't really need somebody else to tell you what to do. You don't need to be micromanaged. You know exactly what to do. You are somebody who's well aligned, okay? And what I'm getting here is like somebody is being forced to admit that you were never the problem, that you were always the solution. And now that you're gone, or now that you're no longer around, they're left with a burden that they need to fill, okay? Like a burden that they need to uphold now. Like, they can't blame you for any issues or any problems. They're realizing your worth now. What are people forced to admit about you? Nine of Wands, that you're the wounded warrior. You were holding the peace. You were holding things together a lot more than people gave you credit for. So I really feel like it could be like a workplace situation. It could be a family situation. It could be friendship as well. Like, people they underestimated the impact that you made when you were around, or the value that you brought when you were around. Now they're forced to sit with that thought, and they're forced to sit with the realization that they mishandled you. Okay? They have to admit your value. What are people forced to admit about you? Seven of Wands. Yeah, like you had to defend yourself. Okay? Like, you always felt like you were on edge, like you were always being put, like you experienced a lot of pushback. People were not happy with you standing your ground, but they have to admit now that you had no choice but to position yourself this way, because they were attacking you, they were coming for you, they were gunning for you. So you had to protect yourself, you had to protect your peace. And they're being forced to admit that they were the one attacking you, they were the one destabilizing you, when all you were trying to do is, like, hold your ground and protect your boundaries. What are people forced to admit about you? What are people forced to admit about you? We have the Queen of Pentacles. Ooh, you're independent, you're self-sufficient. And this is the thing, I feel like this is what they were jealous of. You didn't need to be micromanaged with the Queen of Pentacles. You were extremely independent, self-sufficient, and you were extremely competent. You're a grounded individual, and that's what they're forced to admit about you. These are people that were like jealous of your stability, jealous of your abundance, jealous of your ability to make money out of thin air. Okay, what are people forced to admit about you? We have the Death card, major transformation, powerful energy here. Okay, this is what they're being people are forced to admit about you. You're transformative, you are resilient here. I really feel like you were under constant attack. Even if it was not spiritual, it could have been like, subtle micromanagement, microaggression. People were doing things to you, undermine your abilities, to make you feel small. And then what they didn't realize is that they were just like helping you elevate. They were helping you become a better version of yourself, because you were learning how to roll with the punches. What are people forced to admit about you? Woo! King of Pentacles. What? Pile number one. They better put some respect on your name. This is what they're being forced to admit about you. That you were definitely a stabilizing force to be reckoned with, okay? They fumbled you. You didn't fumble them. They're forced to admit that about you. That you were extremely valuable. We have the King and the Queen of Pentacles. Extremely valuable. That's what they're being forced to admit about you. They didn't want to say that. Somebody may have like said something or did something to undermine you, and now they have to eat their words. Yeah, we have the Chariot, Cancer energy. So what they're being forced to admit about you is that you are driven, you're structured, you're disciplined, and you're committed. You have like this powerful drive that can be extinguished, okay? Like this fire can be extinguished. Okay, so what are people forced to admit about you? What are people forced to admit? Yeah, we have the Knight of Cups. People are forced to admit that you are a loving, caring individual, that you don't have any malice in your heart. Somebody, like I said, somebody was gunning for you. Somebody was coming for you. They targeted you. And I feel like this person is now experiencing some sort of karma for coming after you. And now they have to admit that they were in the wrong. They were the one that was like plotting against you, doing something behind your back or doing things to undermine you. With the high priestess, they know you already know. They know you see right through them. They cannot hide. And you're like so high above this person that like now they have no way to reach you. Now they're forced to sit with themselves. Okay. So what are people forced to admit about you? What are people forced to admit about you? Just one card. We have the Four of Pentacles. Yeah, they're forced to admit that you were always a grounded individual with the Four of Pentacles. Grounded, nurturing energy. Okay. This is what I'm getting here with the Four of Pentacles. This is what people were forced to admit about you. What are people forced to admit about you? We have the Temperance card. What? You're a chosen one. Calm, cool, and collected. Highly spiritual. Okay. Yeah, you're an alchemist. You've alchemized the energy. So whatever somebody did to you to make it seem like you were in the wrong, or something was off, or like you were not in alignment, you were not balanced, you transmute that energy that they were sending to you and alchemize it, and you use it to your own advantage. Okay, whatever they were sending to you, use that to alchemize it. Somebody has to admit that about you, that you're an alchemist. Okay, what are people forced to admit about you? Wow, we have the Two of Cups. I'm telling you, you read the right choice. You're a cooperative individual. Every time like you come around with the Three of Cups and the Two of Cups, like you stabilize. I keep getting like you're a stabilizer. You bring a lot of equilibrium, okay? Because we do have the Temperance card. It's in the card of equilibrium, just like the Justice card is, okay? You balance everything out, okay? And somebody is forced to admit that about you, or people are forced to admit that about you, because now that you're gone and you're no longer around, that stabilizing force is gone. What are people forced to admit about you? What? King of Pentacles again. Guys, I'm telling you, grounded, reliable, trustworthy, dependable. You get things done. This is why I feel like it could be workplace related, because we have the Queen of Pentacles, King of Pentacles twice, Nine of Pentacles, Four of Pentacles, Ace of Pentacles as the main energy, guys. Like it's somebody who's burdened in the workplace, realizing the errors of their ways. Too late. What are people forced to admit about you? Ooh, we have the Death card again. You could definitely be a Scorpio. Magnetic, powerful, resilient. Okay, people are forced to admit that about you, because you had to defend yourself for so long with the Seven of Wands, that now that you're finally released yourself from this situation or these people, they're realizing so many things about you. We have the Eight of Pentacles. Amazing work ethics. People are forced to admit that about you. You have excellence. You bring excellence, self-mastery, craftsmanship. Eight of Pentacles. I'm telling you, this is workplace. Or like people like trying to collaborate with you, or like friends. Okay, people that are watching you, that always had their eyes on you, watching you too closely. What are people forced to admit about you? Just one card, please. Just one card. Ooh, Six of Swords. Ooh. They made the wrong choice about you. Like they let you go too quickly. Like it was a misstep on their end. They shouldn't have done that. Whatever they did, they know that they shouldn't have done that. They're admitting that they let the wrong person go, or they let you go too easily with the Six of Swords. Like you're already moved on. Like you're not on that tip anymore. Whatever it is that you had to let go of, you're not on that tip anymore. You're gone. You're far gone. And that's like crushing them. Okay? So that's all I have for you, my pal number one. I hope this reading resonated. If it did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I hope to see you in my next video, pal number one. Bye. Hi, pal two. Welcome to my channel. This is Stellabeautytarot Tarot back at you again with another video. So my pal number two, you picked the red jasper crystal. And this is going to be your reading, okay? So if you are a returning subscriber, welcome back. I'm so happy to have you back. And if you are a newbie, welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. So the way that I like to do this is like to smudge the cards first before we get started so we don't pick up the energy of previous pile or previous readings, okay? So my pile number two. Pile number two. What are people forced to admit about you? What are people forced to admit about you? Okay, well, let's see. Ooh, we have the Knight of Pentacles. Okay. Practical, dependable, reliable, trustworthy. Okay. You get things done. Even if it's slow moving, you're very practical in your approach. Okay. You're a reliable source, reliable partner. Okay. Somebody who is extremely dependable. What are people forced to admit about you? What are people forced to admit about you? Ooh, we have the High Priestess. The High Priestess came out for pile number one as well as the first card. You're highly intuitive, like you're very receptive. Some of you could be tarot readers as well with the High Priestess. People are forced to admit that your spiritual gifts and your spiritual powers are true, are valid, okay? It's not a gimmick. You're not pretending. You're not a fraud, okay? You're very spiritually in tune, okay? People are forced to admit that about you. They're also forced to admit that you could see right through them. Some of them, they're kind of scared of you or intimidated by you because they could see that you saw like something that they did, or dishonesty in their eyes, dishonesty in the way that they operate. Like they know that you saw that with the High Priestess. They have to admit it. And that's why some of them, they're intimidated by you. What are people forced to admit about you? Ooh, we have the Magician. Okay. People are forced to admit that you are a master manifestor, that you're very skilled at what you do. You bring a lot to the table, okay? You're definitely a force to be reckoned with the Magician. You are a messenger of gods, okay? With the Magician, you're very skilled and talented. You have the gift of gab. People have to admit that, okay? They're being forced to admit that because somebody was trying to downplay your skill sets and your talents, because you're very slow to act with the Knight of Pentacles, but you're very steady, okay? You're reliable. What are people forced to admit about you? Seven of Pentacles. Yeah, like you're worth the investment. You're very patient, you're dedicated, you're not cutting corners. You act with integrity with the Seven of Pentacles. Some people, the reason why they don't want to give you your props is because they have to cut corners. They have to do something shady or deceptive behind the scenes in order to get their blessings. While you are divinely blessed by spirit. Everything you do is spiritually led, okay? Spirit does things for you to help you, to align you with your path. And they are forced to admit that you walk by faith and not by sight, okay? What are people forced to admit? We have the Eight of Swords, okay, that you make them nervous. They feel exposed in your energy. They feel exposed around you. They don't feel secure when you come around. They feel like you could see right through them. You could see the gimmick. You could see the fakeness. And they may not like that because of how you make them feel. There's a lot of like nervousness, anxiety, anxious thoughts. What are people forced to admit about you? What are people forced to admit about you? We have the Page of Wands. So with the Page of Wands, what I'm getting here is that people are forced to admit that you have this spark about you. You have this zest for life. You have this passion and boldness that you emulate, okay? Even with the Knight of Pentacles, your fire, your boldness is really well anchored, okay? It's well directed and well managed. It's not a fire that just is blazing and just blazing for no reason. Your fire is well contained, well managed, and people are forced to admit that you're somebody who has like a purpose, somebody who walks with purpose, somebody who walks with their head held high, and you know what you're doing, you know where you're going, okay? And you know how to like transmute that fire to breathe in new ideas, okay? So what are people forced to admit about you? Just one card, please, Spirit. Ooh, Six of Cups. There's purity and innocence about you with the Six of Cups. There is this also this nostalgic energy coming through. But what people are forced to admit about you is that, yeah, like you're pure hearted with the Six of Cups. The energy around you is pure, is honest, is true, okay? What are people forced to admit about you? Ooh, we have the Strength card, Leo energy. And if you are a Leo and it's your birthday today, happy birthday, okay? Yes, with the Leo energy, confident, self-assured, you're a sovereign being, okay? You're not easily swayed or manipulated. This is what people are forced to admit about you, okay? Your presence speaks volume. You are a silent influencer, okay, with the Strength card. When you walk into the room, the energy shifts automatically. You don't even have to try too hard. You don't have to do anything to make your energy be felt, or you're not the loudest one in the room. You don't want attention, but people see you, they feel you, they sense you, okay? What are people forced to admit about you? What are people forced to admit about you? We have the Nine of Pentacles. The Nine of Pentacles came out for pile number one as well. The High Priestess and the Nine of Pentacles came out, okay? So what I'm getting here with the Nine of Pentacles, you're self-sufficient, you're independent, high value. People are forced to admit that about you. And it's not like you're walking around telling people, oh, I'm a high value woman or high value man. Nah, you don't do none of that. Just your actions, the way that you conduct yourself already speaks for you. You don't have to say a word. Just your energy, your essence, your presence speaks volume with the Knight of Pentacles, and people are forced to admit that about you. Like, you don't have to put on a show. Okay, what are people forced to admit about you? We have the Ace of Pentacles. Ooh, people are forced to admit how valuable you are with the Ace of Pentacles, okay? Competent as well, okay? Like, you bring a lot of tangible, like I heard credibility. You're a credible individual, especially with the Nine of Pentacles. Like, the Nine of Pentacles is self-sufficient energy. People are forced to admit that about you. And this is something that could be unnerving for certain people because they can't say that they made you or they influenced you. Like, there's an energy of like, it's not that you're being difficult, because you're not difficult at all, my pal. Number two is just like you're not easily swayed or manipulated or like molded. Somebody was trying to mold you into a person that you're not, and they noticed that they couldn't. What are people forced to admit about you? What are people forced to admit about you? Ooh, Six of Pentacles. People are forced to admit that you gave more than you received from this relationship, this partnership, this friendship, whatever it was, okay? Whoever these people are to you, they're forced to admit that your value, like, you were more valuable than they were, okay? So, like, let's say if it's like a partnership, a business partnership, the other partner knows that the value that you brought is irreplaceable, and they can't match that. So it's like this person or these people are realizing that how irrelevant they are. They're not even like, they don't even have a lot of value. They're irrelevant. What are people forced to admit about you? What are people forced to admit about you? We have the Death card, Scorpio energy. You're magnetic, you're powerful, and Scorpio came out for pile number one as well. Ace of Pentacles too. Okay, with the Death card, you're magnetic, you are resilient, you're powerful. Okay, and this is something that they're struggling to admit, but they're being forced to. They're being forced to realize the truth about you. Okay, what are people forced to admit about you? Just one card, please, Spirit. What are we? Yeah, thank you. Ooh, we have the Moon card. What they're being forced to admit about you, that there is more to you than meets the eyes with the Moon card. You have a lot more experience, you have a lot more to you, there's many layers to you that they have not explored yet, and that's what scares them, and that's what troubles them, because you're not you're a complex individual. There's many layers to you, and you're highly receptive too. Okay, what are people forced to admit about you? 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 Just one card, please, Spirit. What are people forced to admit? Just one card. Ooh, Nine of Cups. People are forced to admit that you are wish fulfillment, or you always get your heart's desires, okay? You're highly desirable here with the Nine of Cups. People are forced to admit that they're envious of you, envious of what you bring to the table, envious of your skill sets, okay? They're also envious of the fact that you're emotionally sovereign, okay? You don't really need outside validation in order to feel good about yourself, and that's something that makes people feel some type of way, especially if they're not secure in themselves. What are people forced to admit about you? What are people forced to admit about you? What are people forced to admit? We have the Moon card again. Ooh, there's many layers to you that they can't access, or they don't have access to. You're a complex individual, okay? This is what they were forced to admit about you. You're not ordinary. And this is something that they struggle with because they wish they could say these things about themselves, or categorize themselves as somebody who's complex, somebody who's layered, okay? But they can't. Somebody who's versatile. They don't have any versatility. Now they're mad. All my cards fell on the floor. Oh, God. What are people forced to admit about you? Ooh, that you're a great judge of character. Yeah, they know that you can see right through them. That's what's troubling them, is your awareness. Okay? Your understanding, your clarity, your discernment, okay? The Judgment card is all about discerning. And these people are forced to admit that you are extremely discerning. So if you were distancing yourself from certain people, if you're keeping them at arm's length, there was a reason for that. You were like, you saw them for who they truly were, and you adjusted accordingly. What are people forced to admit about you? We have the Strength card again. Yeah, you're powerful, you're resilient. Leo energy. They're forced to admit your power. They're forced to see your power. That your power is not forceful, it's subtle, okay? You have a quiet power about you. People are forced to admit that. Like I said, when you walk into a room, you change the atmosphere without having to do much. What are people forced to admit about you? Just one card, please, Spirit. We have the Magician, okay? Gemini, Virgo energy. Some of you could be Virgo, Leo, Cuspers. I'm also getting like Leo, Cancer, Cusper, and Gemini, Cancer, Cusper. Okay? You're a master manifester. You're skilled at what you do. People are forced to admit that about you. You're more skilled than they expected you to be, and that's what's rubbing them the wrong way. Because, like, their perception of you is not your reality. What are people forced to admit about you? Three of Cups. Yeah, like you have this influence. Okay, you have a positive influence on people. You're a great person to be around. Okay, your vibe is always positive. What? Nine of Pentacles again, guys. It flew out the deck. Okay. They're forced to admit that you're high value. Like I said, you don't have to shout it to the rooftop like, yeah, I'm a high value, I'm a high value person. No, you don't have to do none of that stuff. Okay, that's like, this is performance. People that act like that, they're performing. Okay, if you're really about it, you don't have to say it. You're just gonna be about it. Your energy is gonna speak for you. You won't have to open your mouth to say it. If you have to open your mouth to say this, it's a lie. It's fraud. You're a gimmick. You know what I mean? Like, these are the people that the loudest one. They say the loudest one in the room is the weakest one in the room. So if somebody's loud, you know they're weak. Because if you're confident, you don't have to say much. And that's what people are being forced to admit about you. You're extremely confident in who you are and your value, what you bring to the table. You don't have to say anything. You just, you are just yourself, and you know the value that you bring. And it's not something that can be replaced easily. Okay? What are people forced to admit about you? We have the Lovers, Gemini energy. You have a really good balance of feminine and masculine energy. Your values are in alignment. People are forced to admit that about you. Like, you have a moral compass. Okay? You act with integrity. What are people forced to admit about you? Just one card, please, Spirit. Ooh, this is magician energy again because it's Gemini and Virgo energy back to back. Magician energy twice. Okay, could be a Gemini or Virgo. Don't have to be. Some of you could be like Gemini Sun, Virgo Moon, or vice versa. Virgo Sun, and Gemini Moon. That's magician energy. If you have those two together, you're a true master manifester. Like what? Manifestation comes to you easily. Okay, it's part of your blueprint. And people are forced to admit that about you, even if they don't know what your sun sign is. And like I said, you don't have to be Gemini or Virgo to embody magician energy, okay? Because this is energy. But like if you have those two in your chart, like your sun and moon, that's like you, it's amplified. That energy is amplified. So people are like forced to admit that about you, that you have this master manifester abilities. And people are seeing it in real time, like you manifesting in real time, you speaking things into existence in real time. Okay. Somebody's shook. What are people forced to admit about you? Woo, what? Leo is coming through heavy. What? Yo, okay, we have the strength card 3 times in a row. What? All decks. Okay. Yo, you're extremely strong, powerful, resilient. This is one thing that they have to admit. Your inner strength is undeniable. Okay. So, what are people forced to admit about you? Yes. Okay, no, just one card, please. What are people forced to admit about you? Yeah, you're confident, you're bold. Okay. You're assertive. Yes. They better put some respect on your name, my pal number 2. What are people forced to admit about you? What are people forced to admit? No, just one card, please. What are people forced? 6 of Swords. Wow. Pal number 1 ended with the 6 of Swords as well as the last card. They're being forced to admit that you're moving on to calmer waters. Like you're calm, cool, and collected under pressure. Like somebody was trying to rattle you, but they couldn't. Like you're so anchored and they're so shook. Like whoever this is are shook. Like they're like, they can't believe it. Okay. So that's all I have for you, my pal number 2. I hope this reading resonated. If it did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I hope to see you in my next video, pal number 2. Bye. Hi, pal 3. Welcome to my channel. This is stellabeautytarot back at you again with another video. So, my pal number 3, you picked the lapis lazuli crystal, and this is going to be your reading, okay? So, if you are a returning subscriber, welcome back. I'm so happy to have you back. And if you are a newbie, welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. So the way that I like to do this is like to smudge the cards first before we get started, so we don't pick up the energy of previous spell or previous readings, okay? So my pal number 3. What do people or what are people forced to admit about you? What are people forced to admit about you? What are people forced to admit about you, my pal number 3? We have the Emperor. Bounce. They're forced to admit that you have amazing leadership qualities. You're a natural born leader, natural born influencer, okay? You have amazing skill sets. You're naturally somebody who is drawn to power, okay? It's not like you're forcing it. You're a self-starter, you are an initiator, okay? Whatever position that you have, my pal number 3, you are meant to be in a leadership position. You are already a leader, okay? You don't need a title to be a leader. You already operate in executive level leadership, okay? With the Emperor. What are people forced to admit about you? So you could be an Aries here. What are people forced to admit about you? Ooh, 5 of Pentacles. Ooh. Somebody tried to leave you out in the cold, but they're forced to admit that you're somebody who rise above it. You rose above like the betrayal, the backstabbing, because I feel like somebody tried to leave you out, but you came out on top with the Emperor. What are people forced to admit about you? What? Eight of Swords. There is definitely a nervous, anxious energy that people feel when they are in your presence. Your presence is intimidating. People are forced to admit that about you. And it's not because you're trying to be intimidating or that you try to go out your way to make people feel insecure about themselves. None of that stuff. Okay. Just your presence, your power, your essence is something that people are triggered by. Okay. With the Eight of Swords, and people are forced to admit that about you, that your presence speaks a volume, your presence demand or command respect, and people are triggered by that. What are people forced to admit about you? What are people forced to admit about you? Just one card, please, Spirit. What are people forced to admit? Yes, the King of Wands. You're bold, you're confident, you're a self-starter, you're an initiator. You take charge. You know how to take charge of your future. You know how to take charge of your life, okay? You speak with boldness, you walk with purpose, and people are forced to admit that about you. What are people forced to admit about you? What are people forced? We have the Three of Wands, that you are a visionary, that you are a master manifester, that you are somebody who takes charge of your life. Like, you taking charge is the main thing that people are forced to admit about you. You're not somebody who stays on the sideline and allow life to pass you by, or to allow outside circumstances or situation to define you. You take the bull by its horn and you take charge of your life. Heavy on you taking charge with the Three of Wands. You are a visionary, okay? So what are people forced to admit about you? So we have Justice, another cardinal sign. You could be a Libra in here. You're extremely magnetic because we have two opposites here, Aries and Libra, but you are a cardinal sign. Some of you could have cardinal in your chart, cardinal signs in your chart, or you could be a cardinal signs, but you are a natural born leader. People are forced to admit that about you, but they're also forced to admit that you are somebody who has high integrity with the Justice card, okay? You are somebody who does things by the book, okay? You have dignity, okay? You're not a snake. Somebody's realizing, somebody is forced to admit that about you because they snaked you with the Five of Pentacles. They left you out in the cold. Now they're shook, or now they're stuck in that energy. They have to sit with themselves and admit that they are a snake. This is what I'm getting here. Somebody has to admit that they're a snake, and that you were always real with them with the Justice card. What are people forced to admit about you? What are people forced to admit about you? Just one card, please, Spirit. What are people forced to admit? We have the Queen of Swords, that you are extremely discerning. With the Queen of Swords, you're very sharp, you're very mentally agile as well, okay? Somebody was trying to insult your intelligence, but you saw right through them, and now this person, that's the reason why they are in the Eight of Swords energy when you are around, because you see the discrepancy in this person's, like, either their title or who they present themselves to be and the actual reality of them. You see the discrepancy, and this is the reason why this person feels some type of way, or these people feel some type of way about your power, your essence. And that's why when they are around you, they're nervous. What are people forced to admit about you? What are people forced to admit about you? Ooh, we have the Empress energy. Okay, we have Empress and Emperor. You have a really good balance of feminine and masculine energy, and people are forced to admit that about you. They like how you radiate grace, Venusian energy, feminine energy, but you also know how to take charge with the Emperor, masculine energy. You know how to take action, but you also know how to receive and be soft and rest in your femininity with the Empress energy. They're forced to admit that about you. We have Libra twice, Taurus. You could be a Libra. So what are people forced to admit about you? Just one card, please, Spirit. What are people forced to admit? Yeah, we have the Sun card. You could be a Leo here. And if you are a Leo and it's your birthday today, happy birthday, okay? With the Leo energy, positivity, you shine brightly. You're very confident here, very successful. Somebody is, I feel like they're forced to admit that they're jealous of you. They're jealous of your light with the Sun card. They're jealous of how you radiate, how you command respect. They're jealous of that. What are people forced to admit about you? What are people forced to? We have the Hermit, okay, Virgo energy. Some of you could be Virgo, Libra cuspers, or Leo, Virgo cuspers with the Hermit card. People are forced to admit that you are a sovereign being, you're a self-starter, you're an initiator, but you're also somebody who is versatile, somebody who has flexibility, and somebody who is agile, and somebody who doesn't need outside validation in order to feel good about themselves. Somebody wanted you to need their validation, need their support, need their, like, they wanted to be needed by you, but you didn't care. With the Hermit card, the Hermit card is somebody who's self-sufficient. The Hermit does not need other people. The Hermit prefer to be alone than to be around people. Okay, like, this is what this person's realizing. What are people forced to admit about you? Yes, we have the Moon card. Okay, there's more to you than meets the eyes. They're being forced to admit that you are a complex individual. Okay, and not in a difficult way. It's more meaning like you have layers to you. Okay, you're not mundane, or you're not ordinary. That's what I'm getting here. So what are people forced to admit about you? Ooh, we have the Queen of Wands and the King of Wands. Yeah, like, you have a really good balance of feminine and masculine energy, because we also have the Empress and the Emperor here. So with this beautiful, powerful, magnetic energy, people are being forced to admit that you are a sovereign being, that you're confident, like, your confidence comes from within, and it's not an act. You're not performing confidence. You are really confident. You know your value, you know your worth. So maybe somebody try to do something with the Five of Pentacles to cause you to crumble, or to destroy your foundation in some way, shape, or form, and it worked out in your favor. Like, this person didn't know how anchored you were within yourself and how secure you were within yourself. This person thought that title or money defined you, but you define you. You decide what you are and who you are and how you're going to conduct yourself and how you're going to present yourself. Okay, and what you believe about yourself. Like, this person really thought that their opinion of you mattered when it didn't. They're forced to admit that you don't really care. Okay, so what are people forced to admit about you? Yeah, Six of Swords. Like I said, you don't care. Somebody's being forced to admit that about you. Like, you already moved on. Whatever they did to you with the Five of Pentacles, if they left you out in the cold, they did something shady, deceptive, you don't care. You're like, yo, okay, good riddance. All right, then. That's who you are. That's how you move. Okay. Like, you're like, okay, then it is what it is. I'm going to keep it pushing. What are people forced to admit about you? Wow, we have the Fool card. Yeah, you walk to the beat of your own drums. Like I said, somebody may have tried to cause you some sort of delay or obstacles, or like some sort of ending with the Five of Pentacles that could have like caused you maybe financial delays or something like that. And you're like, okay, cool, like, I already had something like planned on the side, so whatever you did, you just actually helped me fulfilled like some sort of goal. So you're like, okay, cool, you roll with the punches. Somebody didn't know that about you. What are people forced to admit about you? Seven of Wands. Yes, that you are protected. Somebody tried to do something, okay, malicious towards you, because of jealousy, because of the power that you possess with the Emperor. They really tried to dethrone you. Somebody tried to do that with the Five of Pentacles. But the thing is, that throne was built off of your own merit, off of your own effort, and you are spiritually protected and guided. Somebody is forced to admit that about you. You stood your ground with the Seven of Wands, okay? You're still standing. And that's what they wanted to see you crumble. It didn't happen. What are people forced to admit about you? Just one card, please, Spirit. What are people forced to admit about you? What are people forced to admit? We have, wow, we have the King of Cups. People are forced to admit that you are emotionally more well balanced, okay? You're emotionally intelligent. You're emotionally grounded. You're not somebody who's easily swayed or manipulated, and you're not somebody who easily crumbles in obstacles or challenges when you're being forced, when you're experiencing some sort of like setback. We have the Justice card. Yeah, they're being forced to admit that you have integrity. You have more integrity than these people. You're a sovereign being. You have integrity. You're protected. Okay. You have like you have a moral compass. Like there's certain things that you just don't do. You don't move shifty, okay? Like you know what I mean? Like whoever this is, they move like so shifty. Like you know the way that they do. It's like yo, like stay away. That's the type of energy I'm getting here. Like stay away, stay over there. What are people forced to admit about you? What are people forced to admit about you? Yeah, we have the Page of Swords. They're definitely watching you. People are gossiping about you. Okay? Yeah, like somebody they're forced to admit that like you are standing your ground. You're not running your mouth. Like whatever situation that happened, like you're like keeping your cool. You're calm, cool, and collected under pressure. What are people forced to admit about you? They misjudged you. Yeah, they're forced to admit that they betrayed you, they backstabbed you, they caused a painful ending for you, but they didn't think that you were going to use this in your favor. This is what I'm getting here. Like whatever they tried to orchestrate for you to cause you some sort of painful ending, you it actually materialized and worked in your favor. Like you transmuted that energy instead. What are people forced to admit about you? What are people forced to admit? Yeah, King of Swords. You're highly intelligent. We have the King and the Queen of Swords, the King and the Queen of Wands. So that feminine and masculine aspect of you is well balanced. You're very sharp. People are forced to admit that you're highly intelligent. You're 10 step ahead of them. Like you, it's like people were playing checkers with you while you were playing chess. You saw their move. You were already ahead. You were already planning your things. And these people really thought that they were going to catch you slipping. But they end up like the ditch that they dug up for you, they fell in it. What are people forced to admit about you? Yeah, Six of Pentacles. They're forced to admit that you were giving more to this connection, this partnership, friendship, whatever it is, whoever these people are to you, you were giving more than they were giving to you. So it wasn't equal give and take. You were giving more, and they're forced to admit that their value compared to you is not even the same. It's like this is like oh my gosh. Spirit is saying like Prada and Chanel. Oh my god, guys, don't come for me in the comments. And oh my god, Spirit, please don't. Prada, Chanel on this side, okay. Yves Saint Laurent and all of that with I'm just gonna say store brand, okay. I'm not gonna say any brand because I don't want people to come for me, but like yes, okay, this is what I'm getting here. Your Prada, Chanel, Louis Vuitton, and then whoever the other person is or those people are store brand, generic brand, okay. That's what they are. And it's not like me trying to say that no, this Spirit is saying that, and these people are forced to admit that they're a generic brand. That's what they are. There's no you know there's no value. Anybody could have it, okay. It's not luxurious. Your value is luxurious, okay. Expensive. What are people forced to admit about you? Ooh, they're gonna come for me in the comments. What are people forced to admit about you? What are people forced to admit? Seven of Pentacles. Yeah, you were worth the investment. Okay, you bring a lot of value. I'm telling you, your value is indispensable. Okay, it's not easily replicated. What are people forced to admit about you? Ooh, we have the Strength card, Leo energy again. Okay, you're courageous, you're powerful, you're extremely influential. Your power is quiet, it's not forceful, and people are forced to admit that about you. That you influence these people in a way that they don't want to admit, but they have to. They're being forced. What are people forced to admit about you? Just one card, please, Spirit. We have the Four Swords, okay? Like something has been put to rest. Like, yeah, you're no longer invested. You don't care. Like, they're being forced to admit that. Like, you never really, like, who they thought you were and who they thought they were is not even in alignment. What are people forced to admit about you? We have the Judgment card. They're being forced to admit that they misjudged you. They misjudged you harshly. And who they thought you were is not who they're seeing right now. It's like they were projecting. They're being forced to admit that about you. Like whatever they were saying about you, thinking about you initially is what they were, it's who they were. They were projecting onto you what they thought about you. Okay? So that's all I have for you, my pal number 3. I hope this reading resonated. If it did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I hope to see you in my next video, pal number 3. Bye.